Well, hello again, everybody. My name is Rob Godlewski with the Think Small podcast. And today we have the pleasure of speaking with John Wilkening from Tech Credit Union in Indiana. John, welcome to the Think Small podcast.
Rob, it's an honor to be here. I'm very excited. Thank you so much.
It's great. We had a little conversation about a week ago talking about how you got started in the business itself, but then how you ended up at Tech Credit Union. Why don't you tell our listening audience about that journey?
Well, honestly, my journey began as a child, to be honest with you. I mean, I come from a little in refinery town in northwest corner, right on the Chicago border, Whiting, Indiana. And, frankly, grew up on the south side of town, which is actually in the tank yards. And, we just had a lot of financial problems growing up. I'm not, I wear it like a badge of honor because I think it gave me the gift of empathy. It gave me the gift to understand money problems from a family perspective. And, people ask me, mainly when I was in New Orleans in 2019, I was chosen, and I mean this humbly, but I was chosen as the 2019 NAFQ Executive of the Year. And so when we had a roundtable down there, they asked me, what made you become, go into financial services? And the truth of the matter was, um, got this beautiful mother, 5'6" redhead, and she used to go in the shower and run the water, and she didn't think we could hear it, and she'd bang on the walls and cry because there was no money. And she always asked me as a boy, we'd be walking uptown and stuff, John, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I think it was about 12 years old. It was a sunny day, and I remember she had a blue poncho, and that's a vision. I have a very visionary memory. And she asked me the question again. I said, Mom, I'm going to be a banker. And she said, why? And I said, I want to help people with their money so no more moms cry in the shower. And it kind of startled her that, she thought she was protecting me, but the whole time, I was listening, and uh, it was life changing. And I've taken that perspective to every family and every small business I've ever dealt with for 30 years. So began in consumer finance and spent some time Mercantile Family Bank in Indiana for 8 glorious years. And of course, mergers come, and work for two or three more organizations, always family driven, and had a gorgeous 8.5 year run at Notre Dame Federal Credit Union. And we did more in my 8.5 years at Notre Dame. Let's see, they did 176 million in total business in the first 75 years they were open. In my 8.5 year tenure, we did 972 million. So, and we went from
Wow.
$300 million credit union to $1.2 billion. Earnings went from 400,000 a year with the regulators in the parking lot up to a high of 15 mil a year. And my great friend Gene Novello, became chief executive officer at Tech Credit Union, whose roots started right here in the county. Actually, we are the only financial institution still in the city of Gary, Indiana, that
Hmm.
started there. Everybody else has been there through merger, expansion, or government order because of redlining. And Tech is still there in the city where our first branch was. So Gene became the CEO, and we started talking about 3 years. 3 years ago, I've been there too. So 5 years ago, we started talking. And really, we were talking about the philosophy of it all and being the Rust Belt with all the steel mills and the refinery, the working class. And I said, we got to return to our roots. I'll come excited. I'll run down the street, but I want to return to our roots and build a financial institution for the working class, for the union men and women, as well as the community. For 3 consecutive years, we've been named the top credit union, in Chicagoland, as part of Indiana, Northwest Indiana, and
Sure.
I'm very proud of that. But I mean, the fact is, we came home, and the union brothers and sisters are excited, and we even have a bat signal on our flagship branch on 109th and Broadway that lights up from dusk to dawn, like the bat signal for our union brothers and sisters. So once we agreed on what our mission was, I knew that this was my calling in life. And you can hear this excitement in my voice, Rob. But I mean, I was a Teamster. That's how I paid through college. I worked at the Coca-Cola plant in Alsop. I was a Teamster for 2 years. I saw the mills close down. Some terrible stories that went on here in the early 1980s, and I don't know if they scarred me for life, but I'll tell you what, they sure gave between my mother crying over money, watching all these dads lose their jobs, and all of this motivated me. So I mean, believe me, if you put bologna in my fridge and keep me warm and keep a roof over my head, I'd do this job for free.
That's an amazing story, John, and I remember that from our first conversation. So you are micro targeted and super focused on a very specific customer target, but it's the customer target that you lived earlier in your career.
It's my whole
So,
life. I mean, honestly, it really is. I mean, my whole neighborhood was union. Um,
yeah.
it's been 45 years now, but March 27th, 1980, go to the Republic Steel Hall with my mom and my uncle. My uncle's been at Wisconsin Steel all his life, and they had a company owned union, and nobody knew about it, Rob.
Mm,
It was called the Progressive Steel Union, and everybody thought that they had their pension, they had union protection, but the union wasn't working for the workers. It was owned by the company, and nobody realized it. And we had a meeting on the 27th, and everybody from the neighborhood went. I went with my uncle and my aunt, and my mom, and everybody was happy. They announced, "Hey, everything's okay. We're going to make it through it." And it had a lot to do with International Harvester and all that trouble. I could teach a history lesson on it. But we left there that
sure.
night we're thinking we're going to have a job. And the next day, between shifts, they locked the gates and
Mm,
everybody lost their job immediately. And there was no pensions. There was a wonderful man in the neighborhood, Frank Lumpkins. He sued them and let everybody back. He started it, kept it front. 15 years later, they got a sliver of their pensions and their whole lives were ruined. And Rob, I'll give you a stat that'll make you, within 6 years, 7 years of that mill closing down, one third, one third of the dads committed suicide. And
oh
you can
my
verify
gosh.
that.
That's a terrible statistic to have to live through.
So it's South Deering, the South Deering neighborhood. It was near and dear to my heart. And, my uncle was fortunate. He, found a job with the city of Chicago, but life was never the same. And, just
Yeah.
men that were accomplishing so much in life. It was just different. And moms had to go to work. And when you go through that, you don't really need a paycheck to make you motivated every single day. So, you know what? I'm out there every single day anticipating for the men and women of labor what they
Yep.
could need, what could go wrong. And by the way, this is the second biggest county in the state of Indiana. We've got over 500,000 residents and 100,000, 20% of the families that I service have union ties. So this was a natural. And
Yeah.
we have a community charter, so anybody can come in locally. We serve the communities great. And we've won, over the last 3 years, the top credit union in the area. So we're serving the community, but we are really making a difference with the union workers, which is, our bread and butter. We love them and they love us.
So, John, being so focused on a really specific target, do you find that limits your opportunities, or do you really find that it it makes your business more nimble and more focused and do you find it as a detriment to business growth, or do you find it as the reason for your business growth?
Oh, it's the reason for our business growth. I mean,
Yeah,
undisputably. I mean, we have banks and credit unions everywhere. And we know the arrogance of banks. I'm not going to run from that. And I guess I spent 17 years in banks. It's based on the size of your account. Commercial lenders at the bank, if the deal ain't seven figures, they're not interested. Um,
sure.
so, I mean, we are a community charter. Anybody can walk off the street. And with us, we wouldn't be winning for the entire area 3 years in a row, which will be four soon, if we weren't servicing everybody. But in this area, you probably were servicing union workers anyway, Rob, without even knowing it, right? Because of that percentage
Sure.
of the men and women that are working at the plants. So it was just hand in glove, and we didn't shut the door on everybody else. We're out there remarkably with grassroots campaigns from little leagues to you name it. We try to go where we're needed. I always tell the team we're firemen. Whatever community needs us, we go. Whatever school, you know what? I was this week. At the Bowman Leadership Academy in Gary, teaching, financial literacy, to seventh graders. Glorious day. What a rewarding day. So we are just a grassroots community in a Rust Belt who was born here, and we're just flourishing.
That's awesome, John. I really do appreciate your story. And so you've been in this type of business for a long time, even though you've been with tech for a relatively short time. But how have you, in some other businesses you've been in, how have you navigated some downturns in business cycles? Right?
Well,
How have you not only managed the contraction of revenue or assets under management, but also how did you manage your teams through those downtimes?
honestly, at that point, you got to stick out your chest. You better have credibility going into a downturn that the team believes in you. And they better know that you love them. And there's nothing wrong with that word. And I'm very proud to tell you something, Rob. I've been through 2 wars. I've been through the Great Pandemic. I've been through the Great Recession, and I've never laid off an employee. I protect
Never.
those employees. That's right. I don't do that. And, during the
Wow.
Great Recession, I was at First National Bank of Illinois and things got very tough. And uh, I said, okay, loans are down. You couldn't get a loan in this country if your life depended on it. There's trust services, anything that was fee income driven for consulting. You've got to find a revenue stream. Cutting expenses is not a growth strategy. Am I right or wrong?
So you're absolutely right.
And so I always tell everybody the biggest mistake that I watch my colleagues and people at other institutions make during the Great Recession is they forgot about the revenue side of the balance sheet. And so during that time, I just kept going for business. I know it's going to be, maybe it's not 100 calls anymore. Maybe it's 1,000, but that's what you got to do in times like that. So in the
Mhm.
Great Recession, I sought other avenues of business to keep things running and not to lose one person in retail. I take great pride of that. And then we've had this challenge in banking and credit unions for years that they want to build a business development culture. I don't really like to use the word sales because I want my team to come across as advisors, and the product of the week is whatever the customer needs. You understand that? But we've been talking about,
For sure.
we're trying to get financial institutions to grow, and then we always throw them extra work in our branches and our call centers. Well, now when you give them that administrative or that operational work, they got 1,000 reasons why in the heck they can't get the phone calls and reaching out to customers. And the pandemic was the great experiment because the pandemic, the lobbies locked up. But my people were still at work, right? We were bringing people only in by appointment. And of course, that was not a problem, but we just didn't have the doors open. Well, when I locked those lobby doors, my loan volume went from 200 million a year to $300 million a year, and deposits went wacko because all of a sudden, and every product counts. You understand it, but there's a lot of things that come in. People, wanted to go through their statements, or they want to open Joey a student checking account, or they want to open up a Christmas club account. Well, during the Great Pandemic, that all stopped, and all of a sudden, these folks were really this. They were dialing and reaching out to members and customers, and again, I mean, we watched the 50%. It's unbelievable. So the great experiment was over. So if there's any bankers or credit unions executives out there listening to this show and you're still tying down your people that should be developing business, well, you're probably the problem because in the great pandemic, it was unbelievable what I saw from a banking side, and it worked, and which was free your people up so they can take care of people.
That's amazing advice, John. So in and obviously you managed the pandemic really well. So how were you able to navigate those times of growth? Increasing your loan business by 50% in the middle of the beginning part of that pandemic is a huge accomplishment. How were you able to navigate, not only the growth from a systems perspective, but certainly from a human perspective?
It was everything about human. We're spread out. I'm basically living on a farm in Michigan with a laptop. My team goes live. We had remote workers, of course, in the call center. The branch folks were there. But man, you're seeing them. You're getting in there. You're making sure there's okay. But I'll tell you, the first thing I did, I was the first man on the battlefield every day at 7 o'clock, and I was the last man off the battlefield at 7 p.m. I was with my team 12 hours a day through LinkedIn, through messaging systems,
Sure.
constant emails, phone calls. I mean, and we were having a great time. If you went back on my LinkedIn profile, you'll see some crazy things happening. Snow angel contest. I had a 9-volt battery contest. Who could put it up there? I mean, it was everything to keep that team. And Rob, let me tell you one thing, and you'll catch me in a real honest moment here. I was done at my last place after the pandemic
Okay.
because after $1 billion run in 8.5 years and that kind of growth and that kind of keeping everybody glued together during this thing, that when you went back to work, Rob, there was nothing new that you could pull out of your toolbox. Does that make sense to you?
Hmm.
I mean,
Well,
when
it
I came
does.
back to the team, I knew instantly, like I put everything I had into getting them through it safely. I mean, I had employees that lost 3 relatives. I mean, it was
Yeah.
it was it
Yeah.
was awful. And when I brought them out of it, it's kind of like what's next. It was like there was a finish line for the first time. In your career, every year starts anew, and you just keep doing it. It's one long life. But with the pandemic, I had to be honest with you. And I have, I think 35 employees have joined me at Tech. So believe me, I take great reward in that. But I mean, I really had nothing left for them as far as like, hey, because we were just a high powered machine. And I really emptied my toolbox and leadership of staying in contact, the workload, and having that kind of success. And when we came back, we even broke those records. But it was just, there was nothing left in the toolbox. And you just got to know that. And I
So when you
did.
say nothing left in the toolbox, but you're still there, you're still growing the business, and you're
Well, yeah, but I
still,
mean, I'm at Tech, and I'm with, I mean, I'm home, and I've got the people I love most in the world. I mean, I got my core of my old team, but I got them on a mission in a place that I'm from, and a lifestyle that I grew up in. So
yeah,
it was, and then you're building again. It takes you, when you do what I do, the first 3 years are incredible. You're going to work 60, 70 hours a week. You're building it. You're building brand. You're training the employees. And then all of a sudden, when they get it, and we're already breaking records at Tech. I mean, we're seeing 100% jump year after year.
wow.
Okay. We really are from 23 to 24 to 25. 26 was our best January. We did it again. Um, it's the mission. And again, I just don't think, honestly, Rob, I don't think anybody could pay me $1 million a year and say, come grow my bank or credit union. By talking to me, I can do it. But I don't know that that gets me up in the morning to lead an organization, the growth. I need a mission. I want, the people that we serve have to be so deep in your heart that you just go to war for them every single day. And for me, we say, Tech Credit Union, we're labor banks, and every day is Labor Day there. I mean, as I told the union bosses, I want you to join me on this mission, but if you don't, I'll be okay because I'm going to win this war at the kitchen table of your workers. It's great that we're partners, and we are. We've had two of the biggest union bosses in the last 2 weeks join our board of directors, okay? And more are coming. But the fact of the matter is, you got to be willing to die for the people you serve. It's just not a job. If anybody thinks I'm ideological, you haven't met me.
That's amazing. So again, you've been at Tech for a relatively short time, but you've proven, in previous roles that you can do this, and it's all mission driven. What is in store for Tech Credit Union over the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
Oh, growth, and probably expansion. To be honest with you,
I love
and
it.
frankly, with our new union initiative and special menu and everything we built for the unions, there's a lot of small union credit unions across this nation, and I'm talking to them all every day throughout the week. You know, to help them maintain their independence. So, Tech's 600 mil, we're getting large. And, we got to pay it forward. And the one thing I tell the members of the Indiana Credit Union League, or I'll tell everybody on LinkedIn, hey, you don't have to go spend $200,000 to pay a sales vendor to come in and talk to you about Disney World and things in a classroom that they never did themselves. You can have 2 hours of my time anytime you want for free because I'm so into the mission. And just like I'm talking to you, I'll call into any credit union in the nation and I will talk to their teams about this and I will make it easy because you know what? I get it. Okay. I walk it. I talk it. I am them. And what we got our crisis of the industry. And I mean this, our crisis in the industry, Rob, is people that are trying to lead business development, sales, and growth that frankly are administrative or authoritarian. Now
Hmm.
you can be one or two leaders, okay? You can be one or two leaders. You can be a jockey who whips your horses around the track a la Wells Fargo and Fifth Third and all these crazy houses of ill repute where do more, or you can just be a missionary. And I know one thing: a missionary will beat a mercenary every day of the year for all the years in history. Because when it's in your heart, it's not financial. And so there it is, brother.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you, John. That's the passion that you have for this business and for your employees and obviously for your customers is really shining through. So one thing that we talked about before was your desire to educate your customers through financial literacy. And you've done a lot of work rather than just offering services of a normal bank or a normal credit union. one thing you're really big on is education. So let's talk a little bit more about that.
Well, it's where everything begins, right? I try to tell the team, you hear stupid things through the years. You just do. Okay. Mr. Jones always bounce a check. Well, no, let me tell you something. If a customer's been with your institution for 30 years and their average daily balance is the same, guess what? When they bounce checks, the failure's not on them. The failure's on the banker. I mean, what did you do for 30 years while Mr. and Mrs. Jones were coming in to make deposits and you never put them on a savings plan, right? Or you never did a budget with them and said, hey, where's all your money going? I was just telling the kids this week in Gary, I'll give every one of your parents a $300 a month raise today. And we did a little budget program. And if they follow it, and I'll be checking in with them again. But if the parents went in and they follow my system, literally they'll see $300 a month in waste. So it's our job to grow customers. Everybody wants to have a $10 million customer. Well, I don't. I'd rather have 100,000 customers or 1 million customers with $10. There's a lot more opportunity there. And so I want my team to be financial advising. We have to be, and with the union initiative, this goes so near and dear to my heart because guess what's happening? The unions are growing. We need all these amount of workers. We got these apprentice programs. I was with the president of Leuna this morning saying, I want you to come. They're going to add a 5th day for me. They do the first 4 days with the apprentices on, of course, work stuff. But on the 5th day, they're going to come in and they're going to learn what to do with their money before they got their money. I mean, they're not going to be in debt. They're not going to get foreclosed on. I'm going to teach them to
Awesome.
pay themselves first. And I'm going to teach them how to buy a home. We're going to be teaching first-time home buyer. We're going to be teaching how to buy a car. Nobody's going to go into the dealership and get their head whacked. Dealerships hate me, Rob. And I do as much car paper as any man in the country. But if there's a John Wilkening employee and you're sitting in front of them and they see that you paid too much for your new car, they pick up the phone and say, I'm sitting with Rob here and there's some add-ons onto your car, or this warranty that should be sold for $2,000 is being sold for $8,000, or the interest rate's being marked up. Whatever it is, there's so many games. Yeah. So we actually take the customer inside the F&I office. And we tell them, and from the home buyer, the importance of getting a home inspection, the budgeting, the importance of knowing where your money's going, the importance of paying yourself first, the importance of understanding, hey, youngster, don't count on Social Security. It won't be there. Or if it is, it'll be a rainmaker for you. But we're going to get you there no matter what. And then with the union initiative, even product-wise, do I have unemployment insurance? And listen, okay, apprentice, you're going to be working 80-hour weeks. You're going to be banking all this overtime, but you're going to have to save it because they're going to become 3 months of layoffs. And we got to anticipate all that stuff. So I'll stop there.
I think that's... No. Yeah, I love it. You can keep on going for another 3 hours as far as I'm concerned, but we might lose a few the podcast audience members if we do that. So and you're putting your money where your mouth is, John. I'm on your website right now, and there is a section on your site that lists all of the car dealer relationships you have connected to the tech credit union branches. So you really are elbow to elbow with your customers at the dealership, helping them not make a financial mistake. And I think that's
Rob, not everybody's going to be a homeowner, especially the way we are with this housing prices, right? But majority of the country is going to buy a car. It's just the way the world we live in. Okay.
That is true.
And so that's going to be the first financial mistake. And a bad car purchase doesn't take a kid 5 years to pay off. The average bad car purchase will go 3 cars. So about 14.5, right? 14 years. It'll be 14 years before you're in an equity position. And really, we got to be ready to give advice. Like there's times we got to tell a youngster, or sometimes it's somebody my age, you got to drive this thing till the wheels fall off because you keep flipping negative equity into this car, and so you're paying for a car you no longer have. And so I mean, just a lot to it. And we're gonna, my job is to abolish poverty, Rob. I mean, that's my job. My job is to abolish poverty and change a life a day.
I mean, what a mission! What a mission! And it's not about financial services or financial products or opening a new checking account or anything like that. Your mission is is finely tuned, and it's a mission. It's not a growth goal, and I think that's really impressive. Um, so again, what you're mainly in the Northwest Indiana area, maybe some parts of Chicago, parts of Michigan, but do you have plans for geographic expansion, or are you really focused on that area and expanding within your current geography?
Well, there's a lot to go into that. Of course, I could, I mean, I'm a big visionary guy. The previous place went national under me. Uh,
Sure.
I mean, rinky dink joint and then pretty much can do business in 50 states. I put no limits on us, but I'll tell you what, I got a 500,000 people right here that need me. And you know what? So in taking care of these 500,000 people and changing their lives and doing all that, and then working with smaller credit unions to make sure they survive, who knows what the future looks like? Maybe through partnership and friendship, we all work together and become one big thing, or at least we're affiliated next door neighbors, and you're in Baltimore and you can go see Josh Urbick, whatever it is. But there's something more to this, right? I mean,
Right.
there is something more for this. And I will tell you a funny story. I'll tell you a great story. I mean, I really, here's a moment of honesty. So there's a gigantic credit union who doesn't behave like a credit union, and they run around and gobble up small credit unions. And they went and purchased, and they went and acquired a union credit union locally. And they ended up with the building and the employees because the merger went so terrible, and they had no inkling of what labor needs or wants. That the union credit union they took over, all the members moved over to Tech Credit Union, the real union credit union. So I mean, here I got this, you got this several billion-dollar credit union comes to little Northwest Indiana and thinks they're going to flex their big atomic bomb muscles against little Tech Credit Union. They're 10 times our size, and they took a 10 count.
Wow. I mean,
They
that's a great
they
story.
didn't
I love that.
they didn't deliver, and that you just can't come in and say we're going to service unions. You have to. I mean, 2 months ago, I was out at the strike with Leona. I mean, no, if I see my workers out there striking, we're sending pizzas and we're going to join them. And you'll see that online too. I mean, this is near and dear to our heart. And boy, oh boy, I mean, I'm watching the refinery up in Whiting, Indiana right now. The USW is negotiating with British Petroleum, and they're trying to cut workers and put in AI, and they want to track workers around the plant with AI. I put up on LinkedIn, you'll see it. Hey, don't track the union workers at your plant. Track the cancers of my neighborhood. Why don't you track that, BP? Oh, you want to cut 100 jobs, 200 jobs as you bought the Mascot Hall of Fame on the lakefront, and you're going to build executive offices? That's a real great message to your labor army as you're trying to eliminate 100 or 200 jobs, but you're building the executives, a grand tower. And they want to cut wages. Okay. Again, as I said on my post, we'll start talking wages as soon as you decide to give back the executive bonuses. So
Well,
all the
it comes down to really knowing your customer and understanding where you can help them and how you can help them flourish. And you know that. And you're dialed into that, John. I really got to applaud you for that.
and I appreciate it, Rob. And I always say, hey, I'm a builder for the builders of America. And you know what? I want to say one thing. Please let me go off on a rant here. I want to say one thing and get this out there.
Absolutely.
To every union man and woman in the United States over the age of 35, I want to apologize for society because something broke in this country in the 1980s and 1990s, and it's just coming now. It's getting fixed by AI. But we made a whole generation of Americans feel bad for not going to college. And I saw this at a high school last year. I was at a career day, 3 students, one's going to Purdue, one was going to the military, and the one that was going into trades shrink back. And when he said kind of answered like you would have answered back in the day, like if I was a kid, in 1986. Okay. And somebody said, and I'd say, oh, I'm not going to college. That's how we answered. That's how we were programmed. And these people that have built neighborhoods, led families, sent their kids to school, did everything right were made to feel bad because they didn't go to college. They were the brilliant ones. And let me tell you something, life comes full circle, Rob, because guess what? With AI, jobs like mine in 30 years may be gone. Underwriter jobs, any jobs, white collar jobs are going to be gone. But you know what? They ain't made AI who can fix a pipe, who can weld. So, I mean, the fact of the matter is, it's come full circle. And I'm telling every kid that I speak to in high school right now, do not go to college. We got teachers out there going $100,000 in debt for jobs that pay 50, 60,000. You know what? You'll be in an apprentice program for 4 years. You'll be earning and you'll already have started your retirement. The advantages are incredible. So I am thrilled at this point in life that we have come full circle, that working with our hands and having and developing a skilled trade is the way to go. But I am very serious when I say to everybody of my age that was like, had that feeling, college wasn't for everybody. It was overrated, and you all did fantastic. You're the builders of this nation. And now is 5 million a year retiring, and upwards of 10 million. We're gonna go and recruit the youth so they can live the lives you live, but they're gonna live it with pride, and they're gonna live it knowing they did right, stayed out of debt, and raised their families to the best of their abilities. And don't you worry about your money, because if you're in my area, the financial technicians of Tech Credit Union are going to take care of you and make sure your money's working.
John, I love your passion. I cannot disagree with your statement there at all. I lived through that experience of I got to go to college. I got to go get my MBA. I got my MBA late in life. But you know what? I do believe that the trades are going to be the next revolution. They're the next manufacturing revolution for this country. It's going to be what builds this country back up from the ground up. Because you're right, AI may be able to make some operational decisions for you, but they can't fix your pipes. They can't fix your electricity. They can't build your infrastructure. How are these AI data centers getting built? They're getting built by very highly skilled tradespeople. And
you're 100% right.
I totally agree with that. I do believe that there is a change in that kind of mentality. I think there is a lot of, especially corporate support for building up trades. I used to work for a $20 billion, international conglomerate that supported and funded trade schools in the areas where they worked because they saw it. They realized it was a needed resource that's going to help build up the country back up. So I'm with you, my friend.
And you know what, Rob? There's also an infrastructure problem. We know we haven't taken care of our bridges in all these generations, and at some point, as we found through tragedies like the one in Minnesota where the bridge fell in the river, right? Who's going to fix these things? So, I mean, America has not taken care of its roads and its bridges to the level they should. And guess what? The unions are going to benefit there. So it is, my God, and unfortunately, I had no skills, I mean, to build things. I wasn't shown that kind of stuff as a kid. But boy, oh boy, I'm talking to every parent. I'm talking to every dad, every mom. You put a saw in your son's hands, teach him a skill, build the Pinewood Derby car for the Cub Scouts, whatever you can do in the garage, tinkering with your son or daughter. But that's how kids learn. I mean, I was raised in an urban area in a concrete jungle, apartment tenement, 19 floors up. Nobody's teaching you to build something there, right? You're just surviving. But boy, oh boy, if you got a grandpa, uncle, aunt, a grandma, and they know how to do something, kids, start paying attention. Put down your doggone cell phones and, let's acquire some skills. I mean, but this union stuff is real, and life has come full circle. And my God, I'm blessed. I am blessed.
You're blessed, John. We're both blessed. But don't ever let anybody tell you don't have a skill.
Thank you. Well, you're too kind. You're too kind.
No, not at all. Not at all. John, I think we're going to end it here. Thank you so much for your passion and your drive and not only just helping your businesses, but helping the people within your business and helping the customer bases associated with your businesses It's Northwest Indiana is in a better place because of John Wilkening.
Again, you're too kind, but it sure is home. I'll tell you what, coming out of that oil city, one time I had surgery and they were asking my mom my blood type and she started trying to guess the letter. I said, come on, it's 10W30. I mean, you can't be that close to the refinery. So my blood type is 10W30, brother. This is near and
I
dear to my
love
heart.
that.
Rob, I gotta say thank you so much. I enjoyed this chat so much. I mean, you do a great job. It's a wonderful podcast, and it's really an honor to be on it.
Well, again, John, thank you so much for your time, and I'm sure our audience will really enjoy your story.